how to configure SSH on Cisco IOS. Secure Shell or SSH is a protocol which provides a secure remote access connection to network devices. Communication between the client and server is encrypted in both SSH version 1 and SSH version 2. Cisco recommends to implement version 2 when possible because it uses a more enhanced security encryption algorithm. And the one of the requirement or mandatory requirement is actually that you have this image that uh, that is canine or crypto image in order to support SSH. For example, this one here. So there's actually uh, a newer version of configuring SSH version 2, and it is using RSA key pairs. And this is the configuration basically. And this is the and with this configuration, uh, you don't need to configure a domain name and host name. So yeah, and this is the older way of configuring it, which is using a host name and domain name. This one here. So this is the topology that I'm going to use. R1 is has layer 3 connectivity with R2, and we can verify that. Oops, it's verifying the SSH configuration. Okay, so let me ping R2. Yeah, and I can ping it. So now I'm going to configure R1, and I'm going to use this kind of this command here. I'm actually going to just copy and paste these commands. So this is the key pair name that I'm going to use, and here label, this is the RSA key pair label, which is this one. And then modulus, and then the size of the key modulus. So in this case, I'm going to use 2048. So SSH file disabled has been disabled. So SSH 1.999 has been enabled. So we have to, so by default, that is the version that is enabled. So we have to, I'm going to configure the version, which is version 2. And the timeout, this is actually in seconds. So I'm gonna choose 60. And then retries is, you can set up to 5 retries, but I'm going to just select 3. And then, of course, end and save. So let me check, use this command. So it says SSH enabled version 2.0. And if I do this on R2, It says SSH disabled version 1.99. And there's another command, which is that and that. So I've listed the verification commands here. Okay, so now um, R1 is actually acting as a DHCP, I mean SSH server in this case, and R2 is we're going to use it as SSH client. So I'm going to also hold on. Yeah, so I'm going to also, of course, configure the local username and password, and I'm going to use that. And that should be actually here. Let me copy and paste that and put that there. And then of course, we need to make sure that, this R1 is only accepting SSH connection. So that's why hence this configuration. And then just save it. So now I'm ready to go to R2 and SSH to R1. So I'm going to use the username that I configured on R1, which is Cisco. And the IP address, of course, is 10.1, I mean 10.10.10.1. Okay, so I'm in. And if I do show SSH, yeah. So version mode is 1.99. So I think it's because R2 is actually uh, not running version 2 yet. Let me go ahead and actually try to configure R2 with this kind of configuration using hostname and domain name. So I'm just going to just copy and paste these commands. Okay, done. And I'm going to SSH again. And let's try this. Okay, so yeah, so what happened earlier was uh, we saw this version which is 1.10, 1.99. So uh, version 2 is backward compatibility with version 2. I mean version 1. So yeah, so now it's no, yeah, as you can see here. Earlier we no version, yeah, same. We're not using version 1, so that's fine. And it's just running slow. Okay, so yeah, this is of course R1. I'm gonna exit out. I'm gonna say, so now it's running version 2. Okay, so as you can see here, if you go back to R1, I did not configure a domain name here, like R2 configuration. So I guess this is a better way of doing it. because you don't have to configure the host name and the domain name for you to create or generate keys or RSA rather. So I'm actually going to try to uh, remove these configuration from R1. And by the way, uh, there is a oops, there is a command that you can use to basically delete the RSA key pair, and that will make, I mean, that will automatically disable the SSH server. So that's what I'm going to do on R1. Yeah, done. So disabled, yeah. And I'm going to use this kind of configuration. So I don't have to configure these anymore. That's done already. I'm just going to configure this. Yeah. So I'm specifying test.com as the domain name, and I'm going to select 2048. Okay, so that version has been enabled, which is version 1. So I'm going to enable version 2. Just copy and paste these commands. So that works, right? But how about if I remove the domain name and then just delete the RSA key pair, and then so we don't have domain name anymore. And by the way, you will see here that the name for the keys will be, so basically the host name and the domain name, right? This is R1's host name and the domain name that we specified, which is test.com. So domain, yeah, no domain name anymore. Now I'm going to try to, oops, going to try to use this command. So it says, please define a domain name first. So it's not going to let you generate RSA key pair unless you configure a domain name first. Okay, that's all I wanted to do for with that configuration. I'm going to put back the original configuration, which is this. Now let me try to do this first. Okay. And then, okay. Yeah, so I think that's better. Let me try to do it again. Domain name. Yeah, going to try to do this first because I think that's what it's asking when I did this command first here. Please create RSA keys to enable. Yeah, so I think this is the better way, the better step. So basically configure the the RSA keys first, and then this command. Okay, done. And now I can configure this and the rest of the configurations. Save. I'm going to try to SSH into R2 from R1. Oops. R2 should be Cisco, right? Oops. Oh, no username yet. Let me check. Okay. How about the domain name? I think that's done already, right? Yeah, done. I think I missed this configuration. Let me just copy and paste it. Okay, done. Going back to R1. Oh, that's weird. How come it's not working? Hmm. Let me let me remove it and put it back. Okay, done. Save. Cisco. There you go. I see it. The username is incorrect. Okay, that works. All right, that's how you can configure SSH on Cisco IOS. And again, there's two ways of configuring SSH version 2. One is using RSA key pairs, and the other one is using hostname and domain name.